So welcome, good evening to my first Montessori School Online's lower elementary curriculum night. This is for the September 2022 to June 2023 academic year. Who is Maria Montessori? We're going to give you a bit of a brief overview of the Montessori method before we get into our curriculum. And so Miss Mira, I'll pass it over to you. Since you're a Montessori teacher, I'd pass it over to you.
Yeah, sounds good. So I thought it would be nice to start off with a little background of, who is Maria Montessori? Why do we follow her philosophy in the first place, right? So Maria Montessori was a doctor in psychiatry, actually. So she grew up in Italy, and from a really young age, her mother really pushed for schooling. And so she grew up in a very cultured environment, visiting museums all the time and really just spending time with different sets of people. And so with her doctorate background, she used that science and a passion for education, and she completely revamped her teaching method. So she was a director in a special education school, and she spent a lot of time doing observation. So she would sit in the classroom and she would watch how the kids are interacting. And using some of these records, she was actually able to create her very own special materials and design an entire environment, an entirely new classroom where the children would thrive by absorbing their knowledge, by actually, soaking up their environment and the things around them. And so by about the early 1900s, the Montessori method, as we call it now, was pretty much established all across the world. And she spent the rest of her life training teachers and adopting this new methodology in schools around the world, which is exactly what we've done.
Okay, thank you, Mira. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of MFMS Online. So that's my first Montessori school online. As I said, we do have a brick and mortar school, and I'd like to quickly talk to you about the evolution of this program. We opened our physical school in 2018. Everything was running great. We had a full program. And as all of you know, and all of you have painstakingly experienced over the last 2 years, in March of 2020, the pandemic hit. And so our program was shut down by the Ministry of Education. We had to close our school, and we were left with a couple of problems at that point. One was we had 150 students who were at home, who were left idle, sitting idle. And more importantly to me, I had 30 teachers who were laid off from a job. And so at that point, we realized, if you remember early on in the pandemic, there wasn't very much support coming out. We realized that we needed to take matters into our own hands. And so we pivoted online. Really the two reasons were, one, it was to reestablish structure in our children's day, preserve the continuity of education for them. And two, which is really important to me because I had a responsibility to those 30 teachers who I unfortunately had to let go at that time, was to get them back to work. And so we created this online program at that time with the thought that this would be, a temporary backstop until we reopen. And what we didn't realize was that we'd get so much interest from not only from our school enrollment, but from around the world, across Canada and around the world. And so 2 years on, we've been running our online program for 2 years now. It's comprised of all these components that you see here. So we have a virtual toddler program, which services 16 months to 34 months. We have a virtual upper CASA program, which is 34 months to 6 years. We actually broke that out into a lower CASA and upper CASA program. So a lot of the parents who are on are taking part in those programs. We do virtual private tutoring. So that's individualized learning for anywhere between ages of 2 to 12 years old. A lot of families take part in that. We have virtual extracurricular program, which we do a lot of after school programs. Our winter session of that actually just expired. So we had about 20 different courses, from handwriting to coding to cooking class to various music classes, French, Spanish, martial arts. We had a ton of different classes which students were coming in online and doing that from the comfort of their own home. We have a whole bank of asynchronous material, whether it be worksheets, instructional videos. And most importantly, right now, what we're talking about is we have our virtual elementary program, which we are restarting. Now that Ms. Rashmi's back, we're restarting, which services the ages of 6 to 9 years. So that's an overview of our online program. Today, as you know, we'll be talking about the elementary program in particular. And so we're going to try to get this quickly. We can sit here for days and talk to you about this stuff because we love this, but I'm going to try to make this as concise as possible here. So a quick snapshot of our lower elementary program. Number one, it's mixed age grouping, which is really the crux of the Montessori philosophy. Anytime you're in a Montessori classroom, whether you're in a lower CASA room or an elementary room, mixed age grouping is key. So in this case, it would be a mixed age group of grades 1 to 3, which would be ages 6 to 9 years old. It's taught by a certified elementary Montessori teacher, which is Ms. Rashmi. She is MACT certified. MACT is the Canadian equivalent of an AMI accreditation in the States. MACT is basically a Montessori, a teacher would go to a Montessori teachers college and they'd come out with a MACT or a TMI like my wife, Ms. Purvi, has. But effectively, it's a Canadian Montessori accreditation for the teacher. Our classrooms are comprised of small groups. We don't go over 12 kids per class. That's what we do in our lower CASA, our toddler program, our upper CASA program. We always keep it at 12. In our experience now, anything above 12 becomes too much for the teacher to handle in a virtual setting. In addition to that, in our program, as you'll see, the elementary program, we've scheduled weekly one-on-one time between the student and the teacher. With mixed age grouping, want to make sure that everybody's progressing at the appropriate level. So we wanted to ensure that every child would get 2 times a week of one-on-one time with the teacher, where she can go through concepts that are geared towards what they're learning. The classrooms are conducted live over Zoom Monday to Friday in Eastern time zone. Most of the materials are commonly found household items. So we don't ask you to purchase any Montessori materials. That's really the key tenet of our virtual Montessori methodology. And what you will need is a laptop or an iPad or tablet, strong internet access to Zoom, and all of you have, because you're on Zoom right now. A printer. We ask that we would prefer it to be color, but it doesn't have to be in color. And we write here notebooks for math and language. We can provide those notebooks for an additional fee. I wouldn't charge you for the notebooks. We would just literally charge you for the shipping if you need it. I don't think you actually need those notebooks. You can use paper or find some, a cheap notebook from the dollar store where you are. We don't want you to spend money where you don't have to. We have full day and a half day program available. Every year, every semester, we'll give you a progress report. So there's 2 progress reports, 1 per semester, and there are parent-teacher interviews, formal parent-teachers interviews that are scheduled, and then there's informal ones which you can talk to the teacher at any point, which our parents do right now. So if you want to talk to the teacher after the class, you can feel free, and she'll walk you through the student's progress. We'll give you an end of school year certificate of completion. So my first Montessori school is licensed by the Ministry of Education and the Province of Ontario, Canada. We go through strict licensing requirements here to run our school. For the elementary program, I want to be fully transparent that we do need 5 children who reside in Ontario to run our program from a legal standpoint, which would include tutoring children. So I just want you to know that if you do choose to come to us, we do need 5 children from Ontario taking some part in our program, which I don't foresee it to be an issue, but I just still wanted you to be aware of that. International students are welcome. As I said, in our online program, we have students from all across the world joining us currently. In the jurisdictions that I know, some people are here from Mexico and Florida and Ecuador. We have students who've been with us for 2 years. They're actually coming to visit our school. One child from Mexico is coming, I think this week or next week. And then we have 2 students from Mexico coming in the summer who are going to join up in our summer camp because the parents want to visit Toronto. And we have another family from Ecuador who's coming as well. So the parents have gotten to know us so well that they want to visit Toronto, and they feel comfortable dropping their kids with us because they know all of our teachers. Because they've also been exposed to our teachers in school too. Sometimes they might come on, or there might be some joint activities with our physical school. I do ask that you ensure your local school board would recognize our certification, and we can help you with that if you need that. Like, I can try to phone them and see. Generally speaking, I don't imagine that to be a problem. There have been some questions about that. And so I just wanted to be clear that, you'd have to check with your local school board if you do join with us, because we are a Canadian school. First day of school would be September 6th. We will follow a Canadian calendar here from a school perspective. I know in the States it's a little bit different. They usually start school in August and end in May. Here we start in September and end in June. And we will have some school closures with statutory holidays. We have some professional activity days that will follow, marry up to what we're doing in our physical school. So we'd give you a calendar and you'd see those days. Generally speaking, there's, I think, 3 professional activity days. And statutory holidays, it's pretty similar around the world, right? So for Christmas and Easter and a few other days in there that we have. So what is the Montessori elementary method? So we've broken this out into 2 components. So one is there's 5 core components of the Montessori education. Number 1 is there's trained teachers. So that's Miss Rashmi and Miss Mira and Miss Purvi, and we have a ton of other teachers who are either online or in school. Multi-age classroom, I've spoken to that. Mixed age grouping. So in this case, it would be grades 1 to 3, so ages 6 to 9. Hands-on materials. Although we're not in the physical school, we've worked pretty meticulously to handcraft the virtual Montessori methodology. So all of the activities that we present in school, we've figured out a way to present that to you virtually from the comfort of your own home. Montessori is very hands-on. So a lot of the materials that you can find in a classroom, a physical classroom, we can recreate that from, items that you have at home. It's not very different at all. And so either, between creating materials, working with, some printables, and we have some virtual tools, we're able to deliver the Montessori philosophy from home. And the feedback I've received from most of our parents is that they've actually found that our program is extremely hands-on. Although it's virtual, it's extremely hands-on. They're not just sitting at a computer screen watching that all day. They're actually physically working at their workstations, doing the activities, which is led by the teachers. And I'm sure some of the parents on this call can attest to that who've taken part in our program. Number 4, it's self-directed work. So we actually do our program planning in real time currently. The teachers will do the program planning on the Friday at the end of each week and send that out on Friday for the Monday. So they're watching what the kids are interested in and then developing lesson plans based on that. And in addition to that, when we have the one-on-one time, that's where we can really tailor the self-directed work, because that's where the teacher can really assess where the child is standing, what they're working on, how they're progressing, and then develop their goal sheets and whatnot based on that. And lastly, work periods, Montessori work periods. Normally in a Montessori setting, you'd have 3 hours of uninterrupted work period, and so which we've tried to make sure we schedule that into our programming. So that's the 5 core components of a Montessori education. And then there's 5 areas of the classroom. Anybody who's familiar with Montessori, we've always heard about the 5 areas of the classroom. When you're dealing with lower like CASA children, which is ages 2 to 6, you always hear about sensorial, practical life, culture, language, and math. Those are the core 5 areas for a younger child. You don't see sensorial and culture on this slide because practical life, not sensorial culture, practical life and sensorial, most of those tasks, an elementary child has mastered them now. They know how to button their shirt. They know how to tie their shoes. They know how to, the taste, touch, smell. They've sort of figured all of that out. And so you don't see that on this schedule. Now they've progressed onto more advanced topics. And so from an elementary standpoint, the 5 areas of the classroom are language and arts, math and logic, history, geography and science, geometry, and music and movement. We've put 5 here because these are the 5 core areas of the Montessori classroom. Through our presentation, we've added, we like to call them 7 because we've added, or maybe even 8, because we've added extra stuff. Because we want to marry up to the Ontario provincial curriculum, and we want to exceed that. And so we've added extra things like coding, French. I'm missing a few, and it'll be in the presentation. It's on the slide deck. Social studies. So we've added. So it's 8 actually in our program. It's 8, 5 areas of the classroom, and we'll talk to them as we go through the presentation. So that's the 5 components of the Montessori education and the 5 areas of the classroom. We're going to do a deep dive into that in a few minutes. Before we do that, I'd like to talk about quick benefits of the virtual elementary curriculum. So one is there's individual learning goals. The teachers working with the students, again, in a group setting and one-on-one. She'll be preparing goal sheets for each child to make sure that they're progressing at their level, and we're actually firm believers of pushing the child forward. And so we'll always challenge our children to make sure that they're moving forward at the pace that they can handle. Children gain independence and agency of their decisions. So, independence and agency, a lot of that draws out through the mixed age grouping. Younger children will learn from the older children, and the older children will build that independence and confidence and leadership by teaching the younger children. And that works really great in the actual classroom and in the virtual environment. We've seen it in both, and we've done it. And so we're firm believers in this. And in fact, actually, academically, I wholeheartedly believe, maybe Ms. Porby might agree, but online, I believe, and this is from all my teachers who taught online, that from an academic standpoint, the children have actually learned more because the teachers are able to present a lot more of the materials online because they're not bogged down by washroom breaks. They're not bogged down by winter putting on coats. They're not bogged down by snack time. They're not bogged down by, other disruptions in a 24-person classroom. They have a small group, and they're able to present way more activities online than they have done in school. I've had 10 teachers teach online, and they've all said that to me. There's concrete learning at a comfortable pace with natural progressions for each individual child. Again, that comes through the goal sheets and the one-on-one time with the child. It's child focused, hands-on learning. We've spoken about that. The teacher is really a facilitator. It's actually meant to be a guide. The true technical term, we call it teacher because that's what parents are more familiar with, but they're actually true guides. They're guiding the students around the 5 years of the classroom, and where the child's interest lies is where they'll focus on, but making sure that they're still getting a full, well-rounded education. It naturally refines self-discipline, concentration, self-control. All of our students, especially at this age, are sitting alone doing these things on their own. So again, that does build that self-discipline, that they're at the computer and they're engaged. Again, you can take part in this education from anywhere in the world, evidenced by our enrollment that we have right now and the people on the call. And our scope of the program is to cover the provincial curriculum that we have here in Ontario, Canada, but also exceed that with the enhancements to the Montessori education. And so we feel comfortable that we are exceeding all of the curriculum that's being presented by the Ministry of Education here. And I hope that you would see that too through this presentation. So some important terminology, I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Mira because they're going to be talking about this through the curriculum, and Ms. Rashmi speaking about it. A few key definitions here so that you're aware of it. Ms. Mira, you can go ahead.
Perfect. That's exactly right, Rishi. So we'll kind of be hearing some of these words throughout the presentation. And so I thought I would take some time just to touch on them and explain a little bit more about what they mean. So first up, we have the absorbent mind. This is a term that Maria Montessori coined from children at birth until about 6 years old. At this stage, children are really absorbing learning from their environment, from that prepared environment I talked about earlier, really quickly and easily, and they actually don't try very hard. It just comes very, very naturally at this age. And so at this point in a child's elementary age, they've already kind of mastered that absorption, and now they're learning how to actually use it and how to actually apply it in their reality. Next up, we have the prepared environment. And so this is that carefully crafted environment where it's really comfortable, it's organized for the child. It allows them to be fully self-sufficient as well. And now I know we're all at home, and this is, of course, an online elementary program. And so everyone's prepared environment does look a little bit different. But we try to keep it as easy as possible. And as much as we're guiding the children, we're also guiding you as parents and kind of walking you along how to actually craft that environment at home, whether it be sending you materials that you might need, printables. You always have access to your child's teacher and me as the coordinator and Rishi. And just we help you kind of create that space for your child to participate in uninterrupted work. So we're always here to kind of walk you through that environment at home. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is that the Montessori materials truly are very specially designed. They all have some sort of learning purpose, and also they have indirect purposes. So it can start preparing them for future lessons. And that's exactly what Rishi touched on earlier. As your child has grown from the toddler Montessori program to CASA and pre-CASA kindergarten, These are all things that they've mastered and will now help them in their elementary learnings. All of the materials, they also have a built-in control of error. This is some kind of mechanism that's built into each material that allows the child to correct themselves. So it's a self-correcting mechanism. And in some way, all of these materials also appeal to a child's sensitive period. So essentially, these are, I believe it's about 6 different periods of development that your child is going through. And during these times, your child is actually biologically ready and very, very receptive to acquiring that targeted skill or ability. And so as Miss Rashmi develops her lesson plans every week and, speaks with your child about what they're learning about, she'll also mention, all of these kind of built-in mechanisms within the materials that they're working on. And they might not always be totally obvious. That's kind of the nice part about Montessori, is that they're also subconsciously absorbing all of these things in these special materials. So just a few things to keep in mind as we talk more about those 5 specific areas of the classroom.
Thank you, Mira. So moving on. Sorry, I keep going back. I'm not sure why that happens, but I put our schedule here, full-time virtual elementary schedule. This is really meant to be a snapshot, just so it can kind of frame up what we're about to talk about. And really, I will come back to it and speak to it in more detail, but I just wanted you to kind of see how, all those 5 areas fit in to a week, a Montessori week in the elementary classroom. And so we'll come back to this schedule. I just want you to have a quick look at it. Not to worry, we'll circle back on that. And so let's take a look at the 5 areas of the classroom. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Rashmi, our elementary teacher, the expert here, and she's going to walk you through those 5 areas and what the curriculum is actually going to look like and what your children would learn with us. So Miss Rashmi, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Rishi. So what I'm going to be speaking about is what the basic 4-5 areas of our Montessori approach is going to be. And then we're also going to include what we're offering additionally, for example, to give your child a holistic development. So the first area that we're looking at is language and arts, which is one of the key areas that a child is required to master in order to progress through their day-to-day activities. So we're going to look for how we can improve your child's reading skills, writing, analytical skills, so that he or she himself becomes an independent communicator when they go outside into the real life. So the materials that we're going to basically use will be, I'll be showing you through the materials as well, just to give you a look and feel of what we were talking about when we say materials made right at home. For example, you can have printable materials that are turned into cards. And then these are going to be what I'm going to use as my instruction base in order to deliver my lesson program to the child. So the child always has an ability to look, feel, touch. They get a sensorial approach. They guide themselves through different materials. So you have materials right from movable alphabets, which we're going to use to create different words, to create sentences, stories. There's much to explore in that avenue. We move into grammar boxes because now we want our child to phrase their sentences properly, understand where to punctuate. And then in order to support this, we have individual grammar boxes that talk through right from the basic nouns and articles, right up till interjections and pronouns, right through your communication with different punctuation marks, capitalization, sentence building. And then the third part that we have are nomenclature cards. So nomenclature cards are essentially where a child is learning to name everything around them. During their early years, as Ms. Mira said, from birth to age 6, a child is usually very absorbent. They look through their environment and they keep picking up words. They hear their parents, they pick up those words, but we now want to push your child beyond. So we're going to take them through different aspects. For example, It could be as simple as any industrial equipment, any signals that they see, any tools that they use at home. It could be as vast as looking into different famous personalities, naming famous architectures, etc. So those are 3-part nomenclature cards, which is a very core integrated aspect of Montessori. Moving forward, I would like to take you through the outcome that we're looking for. So each child, since we're going to have a mixed age group, each child will have their individual goal sheets. Each child will have their independent projects, which I am going to personally look into and speak to them, speak to the parents as and when they develop, as and when they progress through the sessions. We're going to keep improvising, keep developing on their curriculum. So they'll have independent projects. We're going to work on their verbal skills, their presenting skills, reading skills, writing skills, as well as their vocabulary. Moving forward into the curriculum. So these are the main aspects that the Montessori curriculum at this age looks at. So a child definitely knows how to do the print handwriting at this point. So we're going to push them for learning their cursive handwriting, which, as we know as parents, a child eventually is going to start using that in his day-to-day activities. Then there'll be different novels, there'll be different story readings that we're going to do together. So that not only includes any fictional books, but it also includes biographies and autobiographies. Because in Montessori, you more push a child out of their fantasy world, you push them into reality. So you want them to be more aware about a person's life, about things that are actually existing in nature, and to draw inspiration from there. Then you have composing, writing, synthesis, reading for meaning, parts of speech, sentence analysis, capitalization, punctuation, something that a child is going to need for their reading and writing and analytical skills henceforth.
And so, sorry, I just wanted to add that Miss Rashmi did a great handwriting class we just wrapped up. I said at the top of the call that we did some extracurriculars, virtual extracurricular programs. And one of them was a handwriting class that she did for the CASA kids. And then she did an elementary one, which I think wrapped up 2 weeks ago. It was about a 5-week course. And I think that was a great course. The parents really enjoyed that. And so they actually want you to do that again, Ms. Rashmi. So we will. But the point I'm trying to make is that we've been able to do this writing, teaching children how to write virtually as well, right? And so through various worksheets and activities online, we've been able to help them to develop their handwriting skills.
Absolutely, because that's one challenge that as parents we all face. When you're in a physical school, there's someone to oversee your handwriting, but then when you're virtually there, you don't know how to improve, how to work on that. But then the benefit about having a Montessori approach is everything can be customized into something which is child friendly, which is kind of it also inculcates it kind of encourages them to do that activity. It sort of gives them the right motivation, where you have something to touch and feel, and then of course the worksheets which come along. So moving forward into our next core, which is math and logic. So in math and logic, why they're summed up together is because not everything is just numbers. It's also about developing a child's logical skills, about how you analyze day-to-day problems. So we're going to assist them with logical analysis, ability to comprehend things, comprehend problems, look at different quantities, symbols, when you look at word problems. And the beauty about Montessori is, since every child is different, you don't limit them to a certain boundary. You always see how they can push forward. So I have children who are of the age group 6 to 7, and they know their numbers in millions and trillions. So that's something that I am proud of, to be associated, or to know that Montessori gives that opportunity to us. Then we look at different operations, mental calculation. Moving forward into the outcomes, we'll have.
Sorry, went back. Yeah,
that's okay. So math and logic, as we were looking at the different outcomes, we have the operations. We're going to look through fraction, decimals, word problems, graphical analysis, percentage, time, measurements, and the list is beyond. So as for the curriculum course, we have quantity and operations. We have different materials designed for different age groups. And then again, the problem statements for every child is going to be different. So you have the bead frames, as a lot of you would have associated yourself with something equivalent called the abacus. So Montessori has something based on that. It is in a little bit of a different manner. It's called the bead frame. So we're going to see how we can orient a child into learning different numbers and then moving to operations, that's addition, multiplication, division, and beyond. And then we also have the bank game, which essentially a child to move into larger numbers, larger quantities, comprehend them at the same time. Then we're looking at fraction and decimals, coinage, Roman numerals, binomial and trinomial expansions, which is kind of a push into their algebra. So right from math, right from this age, we're pushing them into the algebraic world as well. So binomial, trinomial expansions, looking into the unknown quantities, squaring, cubing, multiples, LCM, HCF, division, and so on and so forth. And moving forward, we come into culture. Now, culture is a very vast area, which I feel that a lot of children, we kind of have a tendency of pushing them more towards language and math, but this is an area that a lot of us, we sort of have a backstep. We don't have that much exposure. We are not able to deliver a lot of concepts, not able to inculcate that interest in them. So in this curriculum, I made sure that I touched the different bases of history, science, wherein I am also going to pull in zoology, botany, and then we're also going to have matter and astronomy as a part of physics. So if I look through the nomenclature cards, you have nomenclature cards which are going to help them associate with different objects, how to name them. We have puzzles. So this is something that even the children who are in school right now with us, they know that the student learns their continents, they learn their countries across the globe. We push them into learning the flags, they get associated with the different food, the different people that live there, languages spoken, and so on and so forth. Then we have different timelines. So this is one thing that associates history with Montessori. So timelines eventually show you the progression of, and it can be as vast as maybe a time period over the different ages. Like you can have how Earth was formed, how universe was formed, or it can be as simple as the timeline of an object, like how a telephone was developed, and then what are the means of communications that we use day to day. So timeline is another way that we pass on information into our children, and why we have images associated and objects in hand is so that the child is always encouraged, and it's a control of error that they have. When they look at something, they know what they're associating that word or what we're talking about. So that is the thing that we try to inculcate, even though it's virtual, that I will try my best to deliver through whatever printables I can or whatever materials we have at home so that they can get the best experience they have. Moving forward, we have this entire scope of culture. We're going to talk about different plants and animals. And one way that I feel a child gets more encouraged is if we can always go outside and associate names to a plant. Maybe you have something in your backyard, but they don't know what it's called. They don't know what fruit it bears, what kind of leaf they have. So through this, you slowly show the child, you push them into a different world of imagination. And then we go through personality timelines, which kind of shows them what different aspects are there around the world, what profession. In short, he is a growing human being. He's going to be choosing his profession down the lane. So personality timelines is kind of going to groom his mind with what different areas are there, where he wants to push his interest towards. We're going to learn about the calendar. We're going to do scientific experiments, which is one area that I find a child is very, very excited about, and they're always looking forward to working with, with their little lab coats on and their gloves, and they want to make some science experiment happen. So that's something that we're also into our virtual curriculum. And then of course we have all the materials with the flags and the continents, etc.
And just on the personality timelines, we actually brought in last school year, we brought in parents, different professions. We have doctors, lawyers, accountants, business owners, teachers. So a lot of different dentists who've come on and spoken to the children. So it's a nice way for the parents to get involved as well, if they so choose. Anyways, moving on to the curriculum. So yeah, Ms. Rashmi, sorry, I know it's getting late and we have a lot of material. So maybe I don't mean to, I know we can talk for a long time. I just want to make sure that we give ample time for questions too. So
absolutely. So looking through the curriculum, as I have over here, it's more history and geography, where you're looking more towards the globe and then the timeline. So you have right from physical and the cultural geography. You also have things from ancient ages right up to the modern time. And rolling forward, we'll go into science. So science, again, is going to be botany, which is study all about plants, learning not only the names, the parts, but also identifying them, classifying them, looking at the functions. And then we're also going to be introducing physics, which I know comes a lot late for their age, but then here we try to give them a little bit of everything. So physics is going to be there, where we're going to have force, matter, science, electricity. You're going to have bits and pieces of astronomy. You're going to understand the solar system, constellation, and so on and so forth. And moving forward, we also have geometry. So another area that kind of takes a back step when we look at math and language. Geometry is more about the spatial awareness. When you're looking forward, you need it in many professions, as we know, which is your hand skills. So to assist them into building things, understanding that spatial awareness, this is a part of the curriculum. And what we use as a material, usually you'll find, is the constructive triangles. We can prepare everything at home. So you wouldn't need to be purchasing any of the materials. That's where the printables is going to help you. You have the 3D solid shapes. You have the geometric sticks, which is going to be helped into shaping the different polygons. And moving forward into our curriculum, I'll probably move to the curriculum. Yep.
Okay.
And so we have the solids, we have triangles, we have the properties of triangles, where you talk about congruency, equivalence. You start right from the line, move through angles, take them into triangles, then the polygons, circles, concentric circles, measurement, and so on and so forth. So that's the curriculum that we're looking at. And then lastly, you don't want a child to restrict themselves into just learning ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. You also want them to be physically developing, something that, again, I know in the in-person school, you will have it all the time. As Rishi was saying, you have the outside time, etc. But how do we incorporate it into our virtual school is we also have music and movement, where you have some activity that relaxes your mind, relaxes your body. It can be as simple as walking on the line, learning key notes. The Montessori bells is an excellent opportunity to push them into learning songs, humming tunes, walking on the line. We have notes, and then we're also bringing in instruments which they can learn, and that also kind of pushes into their interest.
And I have to say, Ms. Rashmi is a great singer. I'm going to out her here because she sang all of the songs from The Sound of Music. I know that's very near and dear to her heart. And my daughter, who learned from her online in grade 1 a year and a half ago, she still sings those songs. So thank you. And yeah, you'll see if you do join Miss Rashmi that she's a great singer. And I still remember the sound. I actually didn't even, I forgot about the Sound of Music until you started singing.
Thank
So
you
my
so
dad made me
much.
watch that movie when I was younger. So anyways, that's just a little tidbit for all of you.
So that's about music and instruments and movement. If I look through the curriculum, we're going to look at body control, awareness, a little bit of yoga, rhythm, guessing games. It could be a sound guessing game, and then songs, and definitely instruments. And I'll hand over the mic to Rishi again. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Rashmi. And so I'm gonna try to get to these next few slides as quick as possible. As I mentioned at the start of the call, you know, in addition to the 5 core areas of the Montessori classroom, we wanted to make sure that we had a well-rounded program which marries up to what we do in our physical school. And so as part of that, you know, we're a Canadian school, so we offer French as part of our program. And so really it's either offered as a specialty program, which is included in your elementary program, or we also do private tutoring for that. Really, it's meant to teach the kids a new language, especially in the early years, as it enhances overall cognitive skills. And some of the things that we'd be learning in French would be the beginning vocabulary, days of the week, colors, shapes, numbers, alphabet. You know, some students already know French, some don't. So we're mindful of that. So we're going to make sure that it's done at a pace that makes sense for the classroom. And so we have a French teacher, an online French teacher who teaches our kids. She'll be joining us as well. Her name is Miss Stephanie. She might actually be on today. I'm not sure if she's here listening in the background, but she'll be joining us to help with that. And I'll show you in the schedule how many days a week we'll be doing that. Social studies, which is extremely important as well. Really, it's the study of people in relation to each other and to their world. It helps young people develop the ability to make informed and reasoned decisions. We've added it to their curriculum, again, to align with the provincial curriculum here. Some of the topics we cover would be changing roles and responsibilities, our community, global communities, community helpers, family traditions. Social studies has drawn itself out through this program because even in our CASA classrooms, our virtual classrooms, because we have such a diverse enrollment, students from all around the world, that they're always learning about other cultures. You know, this one week the students would learn about Mexico and the traditional foods there, or in Ecuador, you know, in the US, Switzerland, and in Serbia, and in Armenia and Kazakhstan. So they're already learning about social studies. They're learning about it. It was kind of drawn out, but we've specifically added this into our program to make sure that we line up with the provincial curriculum here. Musical instruments, we did talk about music, but also we wanted to make sure that there's some sort of musical instrument. Last time we did ukulele. We've also done piano. Piano, again, so in this part, you know, in terms of materials, you might need to get something depending on what we choose to do. And again, parents can have a say in this. Piano, we didn't ask you to buy a piano. A lot of people had a keyboard at home. Like I have a keyboard at home. My child used that, and a lot of parents had that. Ukulele, you know, we did offer, you can do rentals. It's just hard with people who are in other parts of the world. So if that's something that I'm sure you can find locally, we can do ukulele, and we'll bring an instructor on to teach that. We can do a recorder. So it'll be something that you should be able to find pretty easily. You know, we try not to ask you to buy too many things, but I think in this case, music is a good component of the program. So we can all agree on an instrument and that you can find it, then we'd ask that you purchase that, or you can rent it if you're nearby us. Arts and crafts, again, arts and crafts extremely important. And we'll be doing arts and crafts weekly, which encourages creativity in the child. It's based on the theme of the month. A cooking session, again, once a week at the end of each week. You know, Fridays, we'd like to make it a little bit lighter. We have a cooking session that we do. You know, again, that touches on quite a bit of the Montessori classroom: practical life, sensorial, math. You can learn about how to measure, allows for physical development, promotes diversity and culture, and again, builds their own confidence and personal responsibility. And the kids love it because they're making cakes and cupcakes and stuff that they like. They like to do that. And so I know that's been a hit with the kids on the Fridays. And then coding and technology, that's extremely important. So we've added that. That's something that, you know, especially in the day and age that we're operating in, we think it's important for the kids to start learning about coding. And so we'll be introducing some game-based learning and bring on a facilitator who's familiar with this topic, who knows this topic. Again, it's not going to be me. I'm not a very tech savvy guy. So we've done coding classes, so we'll find the right person. We have people who we've worked with who will come on. Again, it will be teaching them the I guess the introduction to coding. There's some great ways to incorporate this online, and so we'll bring that into the program for the kids to learn. It's very, very important going forward. Very, very important. And lastly, I think fostering social interaction in a virtual environment. We found that this is extremely important when kids are at home and isolated. We try as best as possible to recreate the classroom. And so in terms of fostering social interaction, to us, what we've done with our students right now, we still do it. We encourage them to chat, play games, and converse during break and lunch together. We encourage them to eat their lunch together in the classroom. That's so they can talk to each other. Teachers will continuously encourage classroom conversation with the teachers as well as with the other students. Again, we have extracurricular programming, which helps to foster that as well. And again, we work with the parents too, if they like that, we can help to foster virtual social interactions after school hours. And I know a lot of students through these 3 things that I've spoken about, they've attended virtual birthday parties, they've had weekend socials, they've planned to meet up, foreign countries, they plan to meet up, and they have online play dates. So we're happy to help foster that as best as possible. We think it's an important part. So during the breaks and lunches, the kids are, they're becoming friends, they become pen pals, they're actually writing letters to each other. They're not even emailing, they're writing letters, which I think is a lost art form here. And so yeah, really nice to see. I think it's been really nice to see these kids from different parts of the world becoming really good friends. So in terms of the scheduling, so we have 2 parts. We have a summer starter program, which would be a half-day program. I know there's been a few families who've showed interest that they'd want a summer half-day program. And so this is what it would look like. It's really more focused on core academics. So you'd see the math, logic, geometry, language, arts, history. And that would be a half day. That would run from 9 to 12. And then really would be July and August of 2022. And the real academic school year would run, as I said, from September to June. So September 2022 to June 2023. This is a full-time 5-day-a-week schedule. It would start at 9. So we're revisiting this. I showed you at the beginning. We're revisiting this. So the school day would run from 9 a.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern. We do a Montessori circle time in the morning for the first half an hour. Then we do 15 minutes of world news. They research and present and do a show and share of what's happening in the world. And we do that every day, which is extremely important for the Montessori elementary program. And then between 9:45 and 10:45, they'd have either language and arts, math, logic, and geometry. And then on Friday, we keep a cooking class. Then we did take a break for 15 minutes between 10:45 and 11. And then again, 11 to 11:30, we go back into the 5 years of the Montessori classroom. And then 11:30 to 12, we focus on reading. So whether it be novel reading, quiet time, or a novel study, novel comprehension. We did a couple novel studies with Charlotte's Web. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, or James and the Giant Peach. And so kids really enjoy that. I think that's really, really important too, for them to focus on reading. And then during that time, we've actually scheduled, as I mentioned earlier, some one-on-one time with Miss Rushmi. So some students may be pulled out and be doing one-on-one time with Miss Rushmi to make sure that they're progressing at their level, given the mixed age grouping. And that's a chance also for the parents. If you want to talk to Miss Rushmi or be involved on a one-on-one basis, you can. We'll have a recess/lunch for 1 hour between 12 and 1. We'll reconvene at 1 to 2 for some more Montessori times. Remember, the core crux of Montessori is they need that 3-hour work period. So they'll get that through that time. And then we'll round out the day with some of our extracurricular specialty programming, whether it be French, social studies, coding, and then the music class. So that's a core day. Again, there's themes of the month as well, noted at the bottom here. Every month there's a different theme. These line up to what we do in school, in our physical school as well. So whether it be back to school, they talk about fall, winter, around the globe, animals, weather, the earth, that type of thing. Every month there's some new theme which they'll be focusing on as well. And so in terms of screen time, daily there's 360 minutes. So that's 6 hours a day, 9 to 3. That 285 of those minutes are on the screen. An hour and 15 minutes is their own personal time, whether it's lunch or break, recess. And although there's a lot of screen time, they'll be focused. It's really hands-on. So they're not just looking at a screen all day. They'll be doing their activities. They'll be learning. you know, there's some physical movement in there and whatnot. So again, and the teachers are well versed. They've been doing this now for 2 years. They're well versed with keeping the students' attention / breaking up the time so that they can do some gross motor activities, and you know, have some, you know, show and share where they need to go find something in their house and they can get out and go find something blue from their house and bring it back and present it to the class. So we're mindful of that, you know, we don't want so much screen time. But again, it's an elementary program. So this is a full day program. We do a half day program as well into the September school year. It will be 9 to 12. But we would, you know, we really recommend the full program just because that's, you know, it's grade 1 now, grade 2, grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3, which they would normally be in school for a full day. Lastly, the most important question, I know everybody wants to know this. This is always the sticking point for everybody. So in terms of fees, these fees are quoted in Canadian dollars. I know we have some international families. So for a full-time program, it would be $10.95 a month, and for a part-time program, it's $700 a month. Again, we don't encourage a part-time program. That's even in school. The kids need consistency. We do have an early bird discount, so if you do sign up before the end of the month, it would be $1,000 a month. And in terms of deposit, we would take a $250 deposit, which would be applied to your last month's tuition. You can pay via e-transfer or via credit card. Full transparency, if you do pay via credit card, there is a 4% processing fee on that. And there is a 30-day notice period, as in school. If you want to, you know, leave us or drop out, we require a 30-day notice. And yeah, that's it.